Doctor, did you know who she was at that point? Not at all. Did she tell you what her role was in the hospital? I believe she was a comfort nurse or something like that. I know she works for the hospital. And what did she have to do? Defense counsel, I object. The court, I'll take it. She wanted us to step out and go to another room to talk with her, and my wife didn't want to go. She didn't want to go because all she wanted back then was to stay with Matthew because he was already Matthew at that time. It wasn't a regular baby anymore, and she didn't want to go, and I insisted she had to go. Up until that point in time, when the machine came in the door, had you had any discussions with Dr. Carr as to what might be wrong with Matthew? Not at all. Did you ask Dr. Carr to do anything? We just asked her, after she checked Matthew, we just asked her, is that good, is that bad? I asked her to change the tube. Can you change the tube? Why did you ask her to change the tube? What else do we have to lose? What do you mean by that? Dr. Lake told us in the very same moment we got there that they did everything they could, and in that period of time that I was sitting there beside my son, I looked at the ventilator, I looked at the lung tube, at the teeny tube in his mouth that I know now it is an ITT tube. I asked her if she can change the tube. Doctor, it could be the tube because he has a heartbeat. The only thing he doesn't have enough of is the oxygen. How did you know that? Defendant's counsel, Judge, could we have a time? Is this 11 o'clock still? The court, what time is that? Was it around 11 o'clock, 10 of 11? At that time, it was the very same moment that Dr. Carr came in. 5-10 minutes before 11 a.m. This may look funny, but as an auto technician, I start looking at that ventilator, and I look at a car, and the ventilator was making a noise, and I knew that my son was getting oxygen from that ventilator, and when I looked at the car, and I know that the fuel tank is full of gas, the fuel pump is working, is running, is making noise, and I don't have gas coming to the carburetor or to the fuel injectors, I know right away that either it has a clogged fuel filter or a line is leaking somewhere, or it has a crink in the line, or, and I put it that way, that's what I was thinking in that period of time that I was there. She also disconnected the machines because they were making too much noise. The alarms on the machines? The alarms, exactly, yes. Had the alarms been going off that morning? Ever since we got there until she disconnected 11 minutes later. When she disconnected the alarms, Matt was still hooked up to the machines? Yes, she never disconnected the machines. She disconnected the alarms. And what happened next? We stepped out of the intensive care unit. We went next door in a room in there, and Joan was, and I still believe it is her name, she talked to us that we are very young, we got to be strong, we have another daughter, and that our daughter will probably know that we're suffering, that we have to comfort each other and be very strong, especially for our daughter, for Cassie, and a few other things related to the events of that morning. Did they ever tell you what happened with Matthew at all before you got there that morning? Not at all, not at all. Did anyone tell you that Matthew had an extended period of time of oxygen deprivation? Not at all. Nobody ever told us anything that happened there. The only thing Dr. Lake told us is we did everything we could. When was the first time you heard anything about what happened that morning? I believe it was from you. I believe it was from you. I never knew he was baptized. I never knew he was baptized. I knew because you told us that they baptized him that morning. I never knew that for how long he stayed with low oxygen. We never knew nothing about that. Maybe if I knew it, I would have never asked Dr. Kotari to change the tube. Defendant's counsel, objection. The court sustained. Now, how long did you stay with Joan in this other room? Myself, I stayed with her for about 5 minutes. Then I couldn't take it and I stepped out. What do you mean you couldn't take it? I was thinking about my son, I believe, and my wife was thinking about our son too. But while she was talking to my wife, I stepped out and I went back into the intensive care unit where my son was. And what, if anything, did you see when you went back into the intensive care unit? When I got there, I heard all these alarms going on all over, and I asked a nurse there, I talked to myself, that's the end, it's over, it's gone. And I asked a nurse in there, I don't know her name, it wasn't Marjorie, it was another nurse, and I asked her, nurse, that's it? Is that the end? And I got so surprised because she put her hand on my shoulder. No, Mr. Jones, it's going to be fine. Please step outside. And she said this, smiling at me. He's going to be fine? Yes.
That's too fast.
Too fast?